A little, but not like a lot. What's everybody? I'm Big 78, aka Brandon. This is episode 77 of the Anime Dojo. I'm alongside Chris this evening. Chris, how you doing?
What's good, everybody?
Doing well, can't complain. We have a couple things to get into tonight. We have interesting with Dragonball Sparking Zero, a game that everybody's been hyped about. If you're a Dragon Ball fan or just hyped in general about, we'll talk about that because there was a really interesting thing that came out about it, and I think is kind of a good thing about like good for the future of the game, future of what games like this will be like. Then we'll talk about Gears of War and reason why. Well, you kind of already assumed where I probably would go. Another live action. We'll talk about that. That's another one on a long list of live actions. Also, we'll talk about Tomb Raider the anime because me and Chris watched it. We've seen it all the way through. We're gonna talk about our thoughts, kind of give a review for it, and kind of tell you what I think might happen with this show because I think this will be one of those shows that Netflix will have like 3 seasons of, if maybe more. We'll get into that. Then we'll do the charts and then the episodes. Loner Life in Another World, episode 2, and Let This Grieving Soul Retire, episode 2. But first, let's get into this. Dragonball Sparking Zero had sold 3 million copies in 24 hours.
Bro, people treated that game like it was crack.
And that's what I was going to ask you. Why? This seemed this seemed kind of odd because the last Dragon Ball game we've gotten was Fighter Z, but we haven't got a Dragon Ball Kai style game for a pretty long time, and this is kind of like the Kai style games. Do you think it was
maybe not? Well, see, I know one of the big selling points of the game was that you can play the Dragon Ball story with any character and alter the story as you wish. Or you can play the original story as is.
So not sticking with the source material as is and playing through that story, or picking any character and playing through the story a different way.
Exactly.
I mean, okay, kind of cool. Like,
nah, man, that's straight up dope. Honestly,
I get
all the big moments in Dragon Ball Z can be played with any character against. You know what I'm saying? That changes the entire direction of the creativity in that game.
Yes. The thing is about that though, which I thought was interesting. You saying that other games have done it prior, and it's funny. I kind of surprised that a Dragon Ball game is doing that because Dragon Ball games don't usually steer away from the source material very often, unless it's something where it's a whole new story and it doesn't even go off source material. It might do little small things here or there. But what you said at first kind of gave me the understanding. People felt like this game was just like the second coming of Dragon Ball games. And I don't really understand. I understand the hype. I get it. Do you think it's overhype or do you think it's worth the hype?
Well, right now it seems like it's worth the hype, but until I get my own 2 hands on it, yeah.
Okay, fair enough. And it's also a thing too. Like, I follow a couple streamers, and the streamers I follow don't play the game, but they have friends within the streaming community or the things they do in their life, and they play it, and people were so hyped about it. Even I saw videos on YouTube just random people talking about like, you should go out and get this game now. This is one of the best Dragon Ball. I'm just like, so do people want? I mean, it's also the funny thing. Sparking Zero is also an arena fighter, which is the other thing about it. Arena fighters don't usually do well.
Not really an arena fighter though.
It isn't. In a sense, like it can be, but it's not. Like it is built like what you would see nowadays with like jump force. It has that kind of mechanic built around it where you can be in the arena is big enough to where you're not going to be feeling like you're going to be over.
Right, like the arena or the splash stage can be literally the size of a continent, which is almost like wow, like yeah.
I have to pick it up for myself. I'm a Dragon Ball fan. I get the Dragon Ball story. I'm not a huge fan of the Kai games. I mean, I understand why the Kai games are good and all that, but it's like I've never really been a fan of arena fighters either. When it is, if it a game like that, because half the time it feels like a lot of just like countering and counterattacking, attacking, playing defense, not really doing a lot. The thing with Dragon Ball Fighters Z, I think a lot of people didn't. A lot of people loved it, but a lot of people also didn't like the fact that it didn't have all the characters in there. It didn't have everybody from the series, the mainstay series, in there. I know this game has a lot of the mainstay cast plus a lot of the extra cast too. It's one of those ones. Do I see it blowing up anytime soon? Maybe. We'll see how much more it kind of happens after this. I have to ask you this, Chris. Do you think with this announcement from the studio and the fact that it sold that many copies, do you think this helps anime games in general, similar to this?
No, because the unique selling point of this game, I believe, was the way you can tell the Dragon Ball Z story in so many different ways.
Okay.
It's really hard to do that with any other popularized anime game. Because even Jump Force, that's like that's like putting Luffy in Goku's spot. Like Luffy would have died at a young age if he was trying to keep up with Goku.
Yeah. My other thing about this, the one I kind of thought of, you brought the character Luffy. If you did a One Piece story like this, in the sense where you could play through a lot of the characters' backstories, I think that would be comparable.
But
it
again,
could be a comparable thing, but not close.
But that becomes really hard to do in One Piece because the stories themselves are for the backstories for the characters literally define the characters. You can't put Zoro in Nami's spot and then Zoro still come out a swordsman. You see what I'm saying?
Correct. It's gonna be an interesting thing. I'm not really sure what's gonna be the turning point for this game, because it felt like that people just wanted a good Dragon Ball game, and it felt like we haven't had one for years. And I know it's the old rose tinted glasses kind of thing of like, oh, rose tinted glasses, this game just looks amazing, or is it thing of like people look for the old school stuff and not the new school? And I think the Dragon Ball Fighter Z was a new school style of doing it. And I remember in the Dragon Ball Fighter Z game, there's not really a story. There is, but it doesn't go with the mainline story of the show. It's kind of like a separate off the wall story. And I think the other big issue with that is the fact that the gameplay loop was fun, but after a while you get bored of it because you need to know how to do certain movements and actions to fight. So it really ended up being kind of like you can do the auto combos, but the auto combos won't get you too far. Unlike most other games, auto combos will get you pretty far. The gameplay loop got kind of boring and tactile and not really something you want to keep trying. But with this, I seem like the gameplay loop is actually continuously fun overall. We'll see. I mean, I might have played down the road. Yeah. Chris said he would as well. He wants to get his hand on and see what it's about. I'll probably just wait for a sale for it. I don't really think it's going to be one I'll play a long time, but I do want to try it out and see what it's all about.
Yeah, like if you buy it, I'll just play it on your account.
Yeah, something like that. Like it's not something like I'm a Dragon Ball. Like I said, I'm a Dragon Ball fan. I appreciate the character. I appreciate all the stuff around that, but it's just like not the strongest idea of a game. But hey, I'm glad the studio did well. I'm glad that it got the hype it did. It should be a good thing to support studios like that when they build something cool like that. That's not a bad thing. Let's get into this next thing, and I don't know how to explain this, but Gears of War is getting a live action. That's like the 5th announcement in like 3 weeks, in like 2.5 weeks. What is going on right now?
Dude, I don't know whether to be excited about this because they got a lot of shows. Okay, first off, when it comes to live action shows, and then y'all are talking about this, but we still got to think about the G.I. Joe / Transformers thing that's coming out is utilizing some of the same actors.
Mm-hmm.
So come on now, like either our actors and actresses are about to really get paid, or one of these movies is going to be real shitty.
I mean, the thing is, this is based on this article you sent in the group chat. It's talking about Netflix. It says, has Netflix missed a boat with the perfect casting of Marcus in Gears of War with Dave Bautista? Was right there. Thing is, the thing about that, can that fit? Like, I get Bautista would probably be the best for the best Marcus. He's at the age now where he could play him very well. Other big issue is the fact, can Netflix afford Dave Bautista? Which they probably can.
No, the Netflix can't afford Dave Bautista because he's already been in some of their films.
Correct. Yeah, he has. I think the thing with this, it's another issue of we're getting too much live action. Right. So fast. Like, we got some key art as well, or not key art, but some stuff about the Dress Up Darling live action that they're doing, because that whole thing had a thing about, and it was a credible Twitter account. So I think it's from Anime Corner. Anime Corner talked about it. Anime Corner talked about it. Anime TV talked about it. A couple other places talked about it. Basically saying the measurement episode. I don't know if you know the episode they're talking about. I think I do, kind of, where they measure. I think he measures her body. Well, in the original, she's in a bathing suit. In the live action, she's going to be fully clothed. And I'm like, okay, that's a smart change. I get why that changed.
Because when you think about movies, bro,
Yeah,
technically a bikini is technically fully clothed. So,
that's what I thought. That's what I thought too. But I was like, if you're doing it for live action if you're doing it for Japan, I can get why you changed it. But if also
yeah.
I get why you change, if you're changing it for Japan, you're going to keep the change for the Americas. So that's, I get those. But it's interesting to me thinking about that. I'm like, okay, if you're going to tell the Gears of War story, one of my big things with the Gears of War is the blood and gore and how you can tell what's really going on in Gears of War. Are they going to have to take some concessions with how they're going to make that story make sense? And my question to you, with the fact we are getting Gears of War now, is anything off the table for live action at this point, or is everything fair game?
Everything's fair game at this point, dude. Because it's literally a race. Because this, if you start again, once you start looking at everything as investments, every game, every anime that's not made with actors, it currently has a chance to be made. And honestly, Disney is the one that kind of started that.
Yeah,
because they have had the potential to do great with a lot of their remakes, but some of them have fallen short. And because of that, a lot of companies have taken over, like, oh, well, we see where y'all messed up, so we're going to improve this way too, you know?
but at that point, to me, if you're announcing this, we got this. You got the fact you're doing Dress Up Darling. You got the fact we're doing One Piece season 2. You got the fact, like, there's like, I could name off about 6 in the past month and like 3 months we got announcements for. The thing is, where's the buck stop? Because at this point, if you told me in a week's time, we go, oh, by the way, we're getting Devil May Cry live action. Say what now? like, like I, I know we're getting the anime down the road in like 2025, but like, what? It 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 feels like you just want to make adaptations of things that have a popular fan base behind it. Here's the thing. I will say with Gears, I'm a little bit worried with Gears because of this. They did the Halo live action. Halo live action was pretty bad. Or not not terribly bad, but bad. It wasn't great. So I'm
That's
not looking
because
at.
they get so far away from the source material with the Halo,
There
live
you
action.
go. There you go. They flew so far from the sun it didn't even make sense. It
Yeah, it
literally
was
just
like
happened.
I see what y'all are trying to doing, but we're supposed to be at war. Like we understand that there are refugees and things with war, but you want to see the war.
Um. Okay, I have a couple questions on your. Since we got this announcement, do you think do you think this train has finally stopped for live action, or you think this is going to keep going? Because at this point, I think I have a weird hunch this is it, but I could be wrong.
No, it's gonna keep going because you know why? Because as soon as Sony gets their money up, we're gonna start seeing Final Fantasy. We're gonna see more Pokemon live actions. We're gonna see Zelda live actions. I mean, at this
See,
point, it's only a matter of time.
I think I will give you Sony. I'll give you Final Fantasy. I'll even give you I'll give you Life is Strange. Not Life is Strange. What is it? The one about the zombies with Ellie and Joel. I'm trying to think. Can't think of the game right now.
Yep, the
That
one
can
they've
be
already made on HBO. Yep.
yeah. So that can be one. You could do. There's a bunch of Witcher's been one. Witcher's been live action. The only company I don't see doing anything live action right now is Nintendo. Outside of another Pokemon movie like Detective Pikachu, they've done that before. They helped with that. Well, they didn't help with
Nope,
it because
because
Pokemon.
they just did Mario.
They didn't. They've done the Mario movie from the
And Sonic is
1980s.
technically Sega, but still Nintendo.
So Nintendo. I don't think I don't think Nintendo will touch Zelda unless they have a real good reason to touch Zelda. I don't think they're gonna do that, but they can touch another Mario movie live action if they wanted to. They can make another animated movie as well. I just feel like slow down right now with live action stuff because you're not doing so much stuff. It feels like you're not
I
gonna have.
mean, I'm sorry, Brandon, but if you ask me, there's not even any good cartoons anymore. Like, there's like, yeah, all of these shows are sucking ass right now.
If you could see my face right now, explain your answer to that question because to that statement because are you saying cartoons or are you saying anime?
I'm saying cartoons, which has been where a lot of American live actions come from. They have been sucking balls. So if we're asking them to slow down on making live actions, then we have to give them something else to go to. And if they're making bad live actions, they're still making bad TV shows. If they're making bad TV shows, then they're probably making bad movies.
That's
Like there have
fair.
only been a handful
Okay,
of things that
that's
have
fair.
been good so far.
Yeah, that's fair. I I don't know. It's gonna be an interesting debate because ultimately, as long as the upside of this, as long as these live actions are good, I'm not gonna be upset about it. Once they start falling off, then I think you need to get away from them. You got lucky because One Piece is very good. You're gonna get lucky because My Dress Up Darling is gonna probably be very good. I can see Gears being very good. So like as long as you don't mess up the ones I think if you don't mess up the ones that have good story and plot, you'll be fine. But if you start messing with the source material, messing up things, I think you need to slow down. I don't want to see in a couple months time we get oh guess what next we're gonna make next a Dragon Ball live action. No, thank you. Like that would not be
Nah,
interesting. That
that
would not
was
be
the
interesting.
first and worst remake of any anime remake live action.
Correct. Like I don't want to see that. I don't want to see Bleach. That's for Deon's sake, because I know that man loves Bleach.
Bleach
Loves
can be
Bleach.
done better.
Bleach can be done better. But like, if you're gonna touch stuff with like Fairy Tail be one I would not want to see live action. I would, because you could do it, but like he did One Piece. But even then, that's a whole different different
No,
world,
I
different
think they're
story.
a long way from trying to do fairy tale. That would be a lot of CGI.
Correct. That's the thing. Like you're trying to do ones that don't take a lot of work. You can do it very simply. But also, when you're talking about Gears of War, there's gonna be a lot of CGI too, because you're CGIing all the monsters.
No, but a live action anime that nobody probably has to consider at this point is Fire Force.
Yeah, you could do Fire Force. You could
Fire
definitely do Fire
Force
Force.
is going to be simply done with the CGI on straight flames and fire, which is something that has already been created. Probably, I'm not sure. I personally don't know how easy or hard it would be to recreate or do, but it seems like with as many people out there, I'm sure you can find somebody who's talented in doing it.
Correct. Oh, absolutely. Um, I let me know what y'all think in the comments, ladies and gentlemen, because I don't. I'm very interested to see where this live action train ends by the end for this year. I know we'll get a couple more announcements. I know Deon teased there's a couple more announcements coming out there. I didn't know about this one, but I think I did see something about it way down the road, long time ago, and then it just kind of fell off the map for me. I will not be surprised we get more answers. If we get, and I'm gonna say this right now, the other one I'm kind of worried about, because we're getting another Cyberpunk project down the road.
Yeah, I'm not worried about that.
Cyberpunk could
I'm
be
not
live
worried.
action, but I'm not worried about that one, because at least Cyberpunk has an anime adaptation that's already pretty good. So if you did a live action version, I could see it. It could be done.
Now see, a live action of Cyberpunk is going to be pretty fucking deadly and gory. So we're a long way from that.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's why I'm also like, I wonder how far
However,
they will. Go ahead.
the closest anime would be Demon Lord 2099.
Yes, Demon War 2099. Yep. Which is actually a very good show. Episode 1 came out today. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, the thing is going to be interesting. I think the fact that we are getting Gears, who's pretty gory already, will set the tone for how you want to handle things down the road with other shows that are very gory. But that's dependent on how well they can tell the Gears story as well. But let's get into this, and I'm gonna probably gush for about 5-10 minutes. I do apologize. Let's get into Tomb Raider, the animated series that was on the anime that was on Netflix. Chris, I'm gonna let you go first. What do you think about this show? Because I have never seen a show do so well with only like one or two things right off the bat: characters, storytelling, and tying it back to the game so well to the point where they show you moments from the games that you played. I'll let you go, sir.
All right, man. So, like I said when we were watching it, the beautiful thing about this Netflix series is that I think it's the perfect transition from the Tomb Raider of the games to the Lara Croft that we know from the movies with Angelina Jolie. Like, forget them other movies that they made with the Russian actress, because I mean, they were really just remakes of the game. And honestly, anybody who played the game thought that the movie was trash because they missed out. Like honestly, how did you miss out so much detail in a movie when you could have just played the game and you could have just shown somebody playing the game and it would have been better. Anyways,
Ouch.
The net,
Ouch.
like I have to hand it to Netflix, bro. Like Netflix, it seems like y'all are really close to cracking the perfect live action slash animes kind of formula that y'all got going. It seems to be working really well for you right now. So keep it up. Keep it up.
And like I said at the beginning of this, before I let Chris talk, I'm gonna gush for about 5-10 minutes, so I do apologize. Chris, you said everything. You said everything I would have said already, but I'll give you this. It's funny to me. You brought up something I thought you brought up that when we talked about it, we watched it. It is weird to me that they have the games as a basis. By the way, helped with Crystal Dynamics helped with this. By the way, they offered up their help for this, which is even more insane. Also, the fact you brought up the point they used the Angelina Jolie type character, not the character from the movies. Easy way you can tell when they did that is because, and it's the small details, really small ones. The gala for when they were going to sell her art from her whole house and all that kind of stuff. Laura Croft hates wearing dresses. She hates being that prim, proper lady. The one thing in the Angelina Jolie movies that they pretty much told you right off the bat, she's not a prim and proper lady. She despises it with all get out. And I think one of the few times where she did wear a dress, she immediately does something kind of funny, or like she does something funny with it, or she does like a really strong move, or like really amazing move, and then she just takes it off automatically. So it's off the next scene. The other thing they did, and this is a weird thing I'm going to say, and it's not by no means this is like trying to say the characters are like Laura Croft is like that, like very sexualized. It's the sense that, do you remember when they did in the movie where they did the whole shower scene for Angelina Jolie as Laura Croft? They do the same thing here in the anime with the bath, when she's in the bath talking to her friend from Paris. But that whole situation's a lot less weird because they're talking about the case while she's healing up. I
Context was
appreciate
everything.
Yes, and I appreciate that because then it proves you this. She doesn't want to rest. Warcraft doesn't really want to rest. She want to keep going, but her friend's like, you need to rest. You need to clean up. All this kind of stuff. So they do it, but it's legitimately in a way where, one, they're still talking about the case. Two, Warcraft's under the water holding her breath, which comes back later down in the episodes that helped her later. And she's like, oh, I lasted this long. And her friend's like, lasted what long? Oh, holding her breath. And she's like, what? You're supposed to be relaxing. Sorry. And it's just like, okay, the context you put there was amazing. Also, the fact Jonah in this, the guy who plays Jonah and the girl who plays Laura Croft, play off each other amazingly. They play off each other amazingly, like the game, where they're like, Jonah's like, you need to slow down, you need to take a rest. But she's like, no, I need to keep going. I need this from my father. And you can see when Jonah's like, he's frustrated, he's mad, or he's not mad, but he's like, yeah, why are you this way? And they play off it so well, even to the point where she told Jonah not to go with her, and Jonah did it anyway to help her out. And she's happy that she did. To the point, even to the point when they mention Roth and what happened to Roth in the games. Her daughter, which we meet her daughter for the first time, the games do not mention her daughter, but the show does, and the show mentions that her dad was the way he is because that's the way he went. That's the way he go. He tried to instill that in Laura. But Jonah says, hey, be yourself. You can't be Roth. You're not the bad guy in this, which the bad guy in this was amazing, by the way. He did that was an amazing job. Like, they really understood what Laura Croft's about, the games and the shows. And other detail I love the most is the fact when every opening they had for the show was a different version, like they did for One Piece. So it looks like the jungle, it looks like a snowy mountain, it looks like this, that, the other. Every episode had a different looking opening, and it was because that opening gave you where the setting was going to take place. Majority of the setting was going to take place. It was like, okay, this works perfectly. then on top of it all, the thing that and I said this from the beginning when we watched it, the thing I got the most was you have to make sure Laura Croft sounds British enough. And I'm not saying like overly British, but enough where it makes sense. And they did that perfectly where she has the British accent, but she still has a little bit English in her. Enough to where it sounds a mix of the two. And it sounds beautiful, it sounds perfect, and it has a very good balance between how she talks when she's like angry and mad, but how she normally talks, and also other situations. Ultimately, I will say this: if you are a Tomb Raider fan, I hope I'm not speaking hyperbole. If you're a Tomb Raider fan, it's one of those ones you should go out of your way to watch. But then on top of it all, they go, what'd you say?
I said I agree with that.
Yeah. But on top of it all, they go, you know what? We're gonna leave you a little cliffhanger just in case we want to make a season 2. And I would be down for it. I would be down for a season 2 at this point. It's like season 2 could be. I'm not gonna spoil it because I don't want to do that here. But the way they ended
Would
it,
you
season
rather
2.
have a season 2 or a new game?
Oh, oh,
Mm-hmm.
that's a
Mm-hmm.
hard one to say because both are actually enticing. Both are enticing because you could definitely do it either way. You could build off this ending to make a new game based on it, or you could build a season 2 based on the ending from the series. Whatever you want to do, and that's the problem. Like that's the thing that's the other thing I said. I said we could have done a season. We could have done a. They should have done the season as a game. It could be in a game by itself. But like you said, there was no way this could be a game because of the way it flowed.
Right. Like the way that it was written for a story to be told, and like honestly, if they would have tried to put that kind of story into a game, it would have came out really free and kind of like what's the magical girlish type crap. Like no, that ain't live.
Yeah, yeah,
So
and the
instead, you
thing,
put it in the show so you can convey the exact emotions and intentions that you wanted to put that you know you will be able to get out of a game.
correct, correct. Um, it it boggles my mind sometimes because this is we talked about this earlier with live action stuff we're creating. Gears of War example we talked about earlier. But this is the right way to do a property like Lara Croft, Tomb Raider, and make it believable across the board. Because you got the backing of Crystal Dynamics, you had all the other stuff around it with the games and all the other story stuff. You combine the games with the story, so you kind of had other story plots running through it. It it feels like they knew what they were doing and they did it right. And it's funny because I think ultimately there's nothing else you could have done better that would have made me be like, okay, you did this perfectly. I don't think there was a footstep wrong at any point, even to the point because you brought him up. It's the guy that's helping them, the friend of theirs. I think it's Zip is his name. You said
Mm-hmm.
he's from one of the games. He's from the last game. I'm like, oh, I
He
didn't
like
know that.
he's always been the voice in Laura's ear. Yep.
Yes, but he's unnamed in the games. He's not a named character because we don't even know much about him. Here he's named, and it's actually pretty cool how they handled that situation because it made him feel like a part of the team, but also it made him feel like there's a reason for him to be there, and ultimately gives the iconic thing at the end, which made sense coming from him. I I mean, I'm gonna say it's one of those things where I've never gushed so much about a show that I enjoyed more than I think of this. Um, by the way, Deon is joining us. He has just joined us, but I I'm gonna ask for this, Chris, but I don't know what you're gonna say for it. So I'm gonna ask you this: what would you rate Tomb Raider's Lara Croft as a 4 rating?
I'm gonna give it a solid 8.
Okay,
8.0.
explain.
Bro, the show was good. It was a masterpiece. like it was from top to bottom. The like I said, the transition from what we know as Tomb Raider from the games versus who we see as Angelina play as Laura. You know, like honestly, like I said this before. It's like the games are about Tomb Raider. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? Like, and we know in those games that Laura Croft is just she's a timid little girl who's just trying to get out of danger. Whereas when we look and see who Angelina Jolie portrays her as in the first earlier films that she did, she's more of a badass, pistol whipping, hitting, doing everything. And honestly, Angelina Jolie, I don't think we saw her ever with a bow and arrow.
Nope.
So,
No bow and
all in
arrow.
all,
That bow and arrow
the
was
only reason
from the new stuff.
Yes, it was.
exactly. So with that being said, I would have loved to see maybe at least another episode or two with her using the pistols, the double pistols.
I will say this, and Deon brought it up. It's actually kind of funny. It's from the new stuff. And I have to think back because you said you don't like the movies. But the funny thing about the movies cover a lot of the new stuff in the sense like the bow and arrow, the fact you can use the grappling hook. The fact of the matter, she gets she gets a couple other like weapons things. But it's interesting because without those ones from the movies and the Angelina just using the sword, the guns, this anime combines that with the games with the old movies, and you have all three. The one that's not really counted as much is the pistols because that wasn't her main thing in the games. The pistols were there, but she did it through everything else. The little pickaxe thing she had, the bow and arrow, you had the grappling hook, you had all these other things that she used outside the pistols, and the pistols were like a last resort thing because she never really wanted to kill. It boggles my mind because I think that's what they were trying to go for, and they did a good job doing that. Ultimately, I think it's hard to say if they will ever if they. I think they had to reference all three just to give you the reference. If they didn't reference all three, then people would be kind of confused. Like, wait, why is she using bow and arrow? I only know her from the movies where she used the guns. Well, if you played the games or understand the newer movies, then all three kind of combine. Deon, for you, have you watched the series and what do you think about it?
No, I ain't watched that stuff. Nowhere near that I watch.
I forgot
plan
you.
on it no time soon.
I forgot you don't like Netflix. I do forget about that. I do forget about
that too. But on top of it, I heard it was trash.
You did?
I heard it was straight trash. I heard they made her soft. I heard it's not accurate to the original games. I heard it's basically they made a cartoon out of Laura, Laura Croft's story and not necessarily an anime about Tomb Raider. That's what I heard. I haven't seen it yet, so I don't know.
That's an interesting
But that
take
didn't make me want to watch it.
That's actually an interesting take from the internet, though, because that tells me.
This is from trusted sources. I haven't been steered wrong by these sources so far. This ain't just a regular Reddit.
Well, let me put it this way. I can see where they're coming from with some of the things that they're saying. Like, okay, it's like, yeah, Laura Croft had moments of weakness, but at the same time, if you look at it from a therapist's eyes, she was struggling mentally. She was struggling.
Oh, yeah.
And that was all that they were trying to portray was her coming out of like her having her mental, like her mental stresses and how she overcame them. And then when she overcame those mental barriers, we see her as the Tomb Raider that we wanted her to know, which is why I still gave it an 8. I need at least 2 more action episodes to say that this is Laura Croft now and not Tomb Raider.
That is fair. I also think too. Here's the thing: if you told me you just wanted a bunch of just balls to the wall action to the point where she's just doing things left and right, she looks amazing doing it, you have no emotional context, that would be kind of rough for me because I don't.
But because then we get stories like MASH.
There you go. And that's the part I'm like, I
First season
want
match or second season match?
Second season MASH.
second season MASH, not the
Oh,
first
that
Bro,
was
season.
all
just
you
trash
yeah,
all around.
bro, because they had all action and no story, like nothing
No,
connected to nothing.
No, they tried to connect the story, and that was the problem.
they tried. Sorry, I think nothing worked. But the thing is, if you just want her to be this action hero, just like so badass to the point where she's just doing these things and has no emotional connection, fine. But and here's the thing about it. I remember when people talked about the Angelina Jolie movie. That was the for Angelina Jolie movie that most people liked, but also said it was super cheesy because of it, because it had no emotional depth.
Well, it did have emotional depth. She
It did
lost
have.
her father.
That's the point. So
Like,
it had the emotional depth, but
even
then the
in all of the original games, they had emotional depth. See, there's a difference between being emotional and then being soft. Like, you can have an emotional person without them being a teddy bear. Like, it's a big difference.
So she at no point was she ever a teddy bear. That I
Like I
can
said, I haven't
say
seen
with
it. This is just what I've
absolute
been
yeah,
hearing.
yeah.
oh yeah, which is fair. I agree with that. I It's hard because I don't
Now,
really listen to.
let me ask this though:
Okay,
on a scale of 1 to 10 of roughness from this anime version of Laura Croft versus the Angelina Jolie version.
Bro, it's a transition.
when you say
It's a
when you
transition.
say roughness, what do you mean?
Anti teddy bear.
Like an 8?
Like it literally is a transition from her being a baby to saying, you know what, fuck this shit. I need to do what I need to do.
Okay.
I will say this. I do agree. I can see where we're coming from because they used the Roth thing from the games twice to prove the fact she's still thinking about what happened to Roth, which is a good time because Roth did die in her arms. I get that. The other thing is that would emotionally hit somebody super hard. That is something you saw. And yeah, is it kind of soft when she's still thinking about it and trying to break out of that? Absolutely. But once she figures out she broke out of that, then yeah, her roughness goes just to like an 8, but it builds up to a point where oh no, I don't care anymore. I'm gonna say what need to do what I need to do. Get these things back and get this back in order. Because all the stuff around her was going to award win anyway. And that was the point. Even though she was still kind of emotionally hurt, the world around her was about to go crumbling down. I'm gonna bring this up, and I always think it's funny. And it's gonna be something I'm gonna say very, very respectfully. And nothing at you, Deon, by the way. It's funny to me when critics get kind of tied into things, and I usually go with critics a lot. But the one example I can always go back to, and it was the example my mom brought up, which was kind of funny. More when I told her about it. The Mario movie. The Mario movie did not have a story built into it, technically. It was people thought it was a bunch of random things. Well, for kids, it is a bunch of random things. But for adults who played Mario, there's references galore throughout the Mario movie that is just fun to see. I remember critics gave it a really rough score because critics didn't like it. But most people who watched it were like, oh, this is so cool. I think
The
that's the
Mario
other.
movie sucked, bro. Sorry.
You're fine, but that's the thing is, a lot of people wanted a good story in the Mario movie. There wasn't one. It's mostly a lot of references. There is a story there. The story is built into it. It's just based on the first game, the first Mario game. I think with Lara Croft, that's the other issue. I legitimately wonder, how many people have seen the old Angelina Jolie movie? How many people have seen the newer version of the movie? And the one that I'm really interested by, how many people actually have seen the games, have played the games, or watched them? Because then that will give you context to what this animated show is about. Without that context, if you don't have at least 2 of the 3, you're kind of feeling like it doesn't do. It kind of is like very flat. But I don't know if that's supposed to. It's for me that's not flat because I have context. I have all 3 contexts, but also at least you can look at the source material of all 3 and read it, find it for yourself. So you're not wrong, Deon. I think there's a balance of just making a major bunch of actions, making an action show, an action adventure show, and having emotional balance. Both
me
need to
ask
be
you,
there. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna ask this. When we make these shows based off of things that are already made, right? Based off of things that are already made, we already have a premise for it. They've been around since the beginning of time. Why are we making them? Are we making them to change up the characters and make them how we want to portray them, or are we making them to see a video version of what we know and love?
Oh, that's actually a good question because their whole premise, which kind of hits home, was to continue the story from the 3rd game.
I would say it's neither. And the only reason I'm saying that it's neither is because it's all about for me the way I see things. It comes down to 2 things. This is somebody's investment. So somebody put their money into this because they wanted it to be a live action show, or however they wanted to be. You either wanted it to be made from a game to live action, from an anime to live action, from a manga to an anime, from a comic to something. So for whatever reason, somebody poured money into it. Now, who they pick for their directing and stuff like that it comes down to the vision of that person. So if a person if a person with the money goes and gives it to a person that's not going to look at the source material, who's going to do the way that they want to do because they feel like since they're the director, they're entitled to do it instead of finding a fan of that game or that whatever and having them like know that these are the pillar points of this show, this game, this movie that has to be told. You see what I'm saying? Like that's where
But see, I think
the difference comes in.
I think there's 2 things to that though. One is everyone's perspective is different. Even if we both like the same thing, we like it for different reasons. 90% of the time. So even if they went and got a fan and was like, "Hey, I want you to make this," it's not guaranteed to be the way that every other fan in the world likes it. And
Exactly.
2, that's going off the premise that somebody with true heartfelt intentions that loved Tomb Raider and was like, "Yay, I want to see a full video version of Tomb Raider," versus somebody saying, "Hey, I can make a lot of money off of the name Tomb Raider. I bet. Let's make an anime and just eat." Then the intentions change, then the design changed, then the reasoning changed, then the directions change. Then it becomes what can we put into this to make money?
Yeah, pretty much.
It's funny you aren't both wrong. Y'all aren't both wrong. I think the downside to this though, and I think there's something. I think the thing about this is the fact that if Crystal Dynamics did not help them, both y'all points are valid as all get out. Because then, yeah, I would believe somebody's just doing it for money.
Still,
but here's the thing:
Oda helped Netflix with One Piece, and it's still trash. So
still, things change. So I agree with you there, though. I agree if Crystal said went to go help them, and then they borrowed Crystal. They used Crystal's help, but they still used the person's vision, whoever director, producer, whatever. They did their vision for it, and they just kind of played it off that way. Yeah, it's weird. Here's the other big issue, and we talked about this before you got on, Deon, and this goes back to the conversation me and Chris had. That's why Gears of War live action to me is going to be interesting. You can go to Microsoft, you can go to the Coalition, but the downside is it's the vision of the person's going to make it. And if you make it a dumbed down version of what Gears of War is, where it's not as bloody, not as gory, not as visceral because of what it is, then people are not going to like it.
Oh, you've never played Gears of War with the sparks on, then?
Huh?
You never played Gears of War with the sparks on? Or you turn the blood off?
Yeah, I have. I've played with it turned off. But I think that's the thing. You can do that, and that's fine. But still have the essence of this movie, of the live action there. At least it's had the essence of Tomb Raider enough for me to where I'm like, okay, I can't be upset about this. At least it was good enough to be the essence. Nothing's going to be perfect 1-to-1. Nothing's going to be able to compare to the original source material of a game, a movie, whatever. No, they can't even make books 1-to-1 anymore, and that's even more funny thing about Harry Potter for that example. I'm not getting into that. It's just like, I think it's just, to me, it's like, what do you can't have your cake and eat it too, but you can't criticize. You can't criticize every small detail, and that's what critics do that for a living. So I'm not mad about that. I think at the same point,
I do
it. but you're fair. You're doing it between us, me, and being Chris, which is fair because you have understanding. You've both watched anime for years, and that's one thing I default to these boys, and I will tell you that all the time. But at the same time, if you don't have the ability to look at something critically enough to go, okay, yeah, it's not, they could have done things here and here better. It's hard to say something is totally out of the realm of possibility when you don't have full context. And I think that's going to be the downside to a lot of people. And I will say this right now, critics and fans have always been split on movies, shows, whatever, to the point where critics might hate something, but fans love it. Fans might not like something, and critics love it. You'll never be 1-to-1 across the board. And it never will be. I don't think it'll ever be that way for anything very often.
See, I look at it like this, right? When you have something that everybody likes, you kind of have to stick with what everybody likes. I mean, make something completely of its own if you want to change up everything. Like it can be its own, like Tomb Raider.
You're right. I'm sorry to cut you off.
No.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing with that, and it's going back to something I'm going to bring up. Games try that so much. There's like, people are always like, why can't games make new original stories? You know why? Because they ain't gonna. Most game companies like they're not gonna sell well. Most publishers say they're not gonna do well. Most companies are like, they won't. People don't like new things. You can make the same thing over and over again, and people still buy it. Good example of that, if we're about to get to that point, because we're going on October 25th, Call of Duty Black Ops 6. We're not getting into that either, because I could go for a minute on that.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Video games have this particular niche of being able to do whatever the hell they want to do. Excuse me. Whatever they want to do, and then sell it. And people buy it. There's no video game nobody has ever played. None. You can't bring up one video game that nobody has played before. Even these stupid mobile games.
But I can't. But I bet you can go into a library and find a story that the world has never read.
Oh my, you're absolutely correct.
That is true.
There's always a story that has not been told before, and somebody wants to see it. You know why you can go into the library and find a story that hasn't been read before?
Because
Because
What's
it's
nobody's
that?
in
going
the
there.
library
Mm-hmm.
and it's not in everybody's faces being publicized. Solo
Correct.
leveling.
Yeah.
Solo
Correct.
leveling was a story that the world needed to hear. Now look how good and how big it is. It was a story
Okay, we're
that was
going on
on
that.
platforms not everybody even knew about.
We're going down that route. Okay, fine. We're going down that route. I'm gonna raise you one, and it's one that people are raved about, and it just came out this fall. Dan. Think about the fact, Dan. Till this point, most people did not know what Dan was. Most people didn't know about the manga. Most people did not know about anything of source material. That first episode come out, people go nuts. Here's why.
Yeah,
It also
Dandy
got
Dan was a wild ride.
it also got leaked, so that's a little bit different. But yeah, I, this is an interesting conversation. And Deon, like I said, I'm gonna say this again. I'm sorry to cut you off. I didn't mean to that second time.
No,
It's
no, no,
two.
no. You're good.
That's two. I might do a third somewhere down the road tonight. Um, but neither
It's
one of
gonna be
y'all
like
wrong.
50 times to do it.
Neither one of y'all wrong. It's sad to say you cannot please everybody. You cannot please the anime fans. You can't please the gamers. You can't please the movie critics. You can't please people who just watched it for the first time. So, do you make what you want to make and I'll see what happens to it. And yet, that's what most of the anime community does now. We see a lot of shows that don't get the hype and things around it because it's not they don't market it very. It doesn't get marketed very well. It doesn't get the hype it deserves. But yet,
I'll give you a flaw from that philosophy, bro.
go ahead.
And I'm switching my nerd modes real quick. Um, but if you do it the way you're suggesting to do it, you make it the way you want to make it, and just let the world, see it. You'll end up with the Avengers trilogies.
Yep.
You start off decent,
Yeah, that's
everybody's hyped for it, and
Yeah.
then you let them down, and you continue to fall down this trash hole and have nowhere left to go but to reboot your entire universe multiple times, because every time you try it sucks.
You literally Thanos snap it away to restart.
And then make it suck again, and then release an entire platform where all you host is your own content, and the movies and
So
TV
this
shows that are on there are still trash.
Ouch. Ouch.
So why don't we do what the populace of the people like and stick to comic book fare and stick to what is making the actual movie sell and what is making anime sell and what is making the video game sell, and not try to steer off the path of something that's already there. Create your own and do whatever you want with it. But when it's already there, leave well enough alone. That's all I'm saying.
Fair enough.
There's no reason why Spider-Man should be 14. No reason.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'll put it to you this way. You have three very
Sorry,
passionate
Tom. I
guys.
love you.
You have three very passionate guys about different things. I'm very passionate about video games. I understand that world. Both these men are about anime and other things in general, music, all that kind of stuff. And we're coming from a different perspective, but the one thing we can say is this. Ultimately, it's up to you. Like what you want to like. It does not matter for the most part. It does not matter what other people think about it, because if you like it for certain reasons. Yes, you can take the criticism of other people and say they don't like it, but it should be a simple conversation. Here's the thing: we are having a simple conversation about this, and I think the funny thing about this all, I bet you there's somebody out there, and we're gonna talk about the charts in a second. I bet you somebody out there doesn't like Dan. I bet you somebody out there doesn't like Mecha Udon. I bet you somebody's out there that doesn't like this, that, and the other. That is fine. But at the same time, if you took everybody's whims of what everybody wanted in a show and tried to mesh them together to make they make this everything in the show make cohesive sense, you would have a very giant cluster of things that doesn't feel right.
And guys, don't get me wrong. I haven't seen it yet, so I don't know. It could be the best show ever. But I'm just saying. I'm sorry.
We know.
I know.
No, you're fine.
But
You're fine, because I think that's the thing. Like, you were asking us questions about it. You're trying to figure out from what critics say. You have other things around it that you're looking at. You're not just.
well,
You
when
are
you
trying
have
to.
people
You're just getting
who
information
think
from other places.
when you have people who think somebody who can play a 14-year-old Spider-Man should be able to play Nathan from Uncharted, like
Yeah.
you kind of have to
Yeah,
question things in this world. Like you
Yeah,
have
you
to.
do.
very
You
much
do.
so.
Like what? This
So
bro.
let's get into.
Another shot at Tom, but Tom hollered out. Y'all swear, bro. It's not your fault that you look 14, bro. It's not your fault. I mean, you do
Let's
you,
get.
bro. You do you.
Let's get into this now. Week 2 of the anime charts for the fall season. I'll go from 1 to 10, and we'll talk about them. So let's get into this. Bleach, 1,000-Year Door, or 1,000-Year Blood War. The conflict at 1. ReZero at 2 dropped a spot. Blue Box comes in at number 3. Dan drops 2 spots to 4. Blue Lock season 2 comes in at 5. You have Time Not with an Amigami's sister drops 2 spots to 6. You are Miss Servant comes in at number 7. 365 Days to the Wedding drops a spot to 8. Then we also have Is It Wrong to Try to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon season 5 comes in at 9. 2.5 Dimension Seduction went up 3 spots to 10. Chris, I will start off with you. What do you think about this top 10 chart for week 2 of the fall season?
Bro, is 2.5 going for its third season?
I think it's 24 episodes. It's 24 episodes total.
Okay, so for its final episode to make the top 10, it must have been pretty decent. Now for the rest of these motherfuckers, oh boy, now this is what you call a chart. Bro, this chart is not gonna look the same for the next 4 or 5 weeks. Bro, this chart is wild. This chart is wild, bro.
Deon,
Like the fact that Dan dropped down 2 spots, and it really only dropped down because Bleach and Blue Box started.
yes.
So which means, and honestly, bro, like we already kind of knew Bleach was gonna take the top spot because Bleach, but so like
yeah.
honestly, bro, like these other shows, like bro, this chart is going to be twisted, bro. Like.
So I have a question for you, and I'll have a question for both of y'all. So I'm asking on this, and I'll ask him about the chart. With Bleach being number 1, Deon, is that because it's coming off the last season? So we had the last season about a year ago now, and the fact that it's Bleach, or just the hype for it? Because I know this story is pretty interesting, the 1,000-Year War, Blood War. Why is that hitting number 1 compared to some other stuff? Like ReZero's been around the same amount of time.
Yeah,
Close
you
enough.
asked
Blue
that
Box.
question because you haven't seen Bleach.
I've seen the original Bleach. I haven't seen this. But
no. Yeah, you. How far did you get in the original Bleach? Because
I've seen it,
Bleach
like,
don't have that big of a fan base to be able to be like, oh, it's only up there because the name is high. Nah, this episode is actually fire.
Okay. All right.
This episode is fire, and it is coming off of the last season. Like it rolls right and like cut and dry. Like, and that was amazing. The way they did it was so smooth. The transitioning into the scenes was so like you literally could watch the last episode of the season before and watch this first episode and be like, nothing changed. It's
Yeah.
so smooth. Whereas things like Blue Lock, who shouldn't even be on this chart, like it's not as good as the first season. But Bleach deserves every accolade it gets off of this episode alone.
Okay.
Am I wrong, Chris? Did you see it yet?
Yeah, bro. Here, this. Oh,
Okay. I'm not shocked, like Chris said, they ended up dropping to 4 because Blue Box came into the chart, which I heard Blue Box is very interesting comparatively to some of the other stuff on here. ReZero doing as well as it is, not surprising. I think with Dan, it's gonna be really interesting to see once we get to a big battle. Because this next episode for Dan is gonna be interesting. And I called something for that, but I'll talk about that next week. I'm not gonna give that away right now. Because it's actually, but based on the title that they talked about, we are getting the thing I thought. But let's get into this. I'm gonna talk about 11 through 20, and then we'll go from the other chart with Chris. So 11 is My Hero. That was My Hero's last episode of the season. Yep, that is their last episode of the season. So they did pretty well. Stayed in the top 15. Uzumaki is at 12. Ramen Half is at 13. One Piece at 14. I Become Villainous, who goes down in history, is at 15, which is actually really good. The Yakuza Fiance is at 16, which is actually pretty well made. As reincarnate as a apothecary, season 2 is at 17. Spirit Chronicles is at 18, season 2. We also got Negative Positive Angler is at 19. Loner Life is at 20. And then the 22 is going to be Let the Grieving Soul Retire. Sword Art Online Gun Gals is at 24. If my wife becomes an elementary school student, is at 25. Blue Exodus is at 27. Fairy Tale 100-Year Quest is at 28. And Mecha Udon is at 29. Tower Gods at 30.
This chart sucks.
In what sense?
Sorry, I thought I was on mute.
Please explain, because I'll let you go first on that back half.
I mean, because all of these anime, don't get me wrong, there are some heavy hitters on here, but the ones that are good are in the back. And then we got some scrambling for first place that's like, I mean, not literally first place, not 1 through 10. I mean, like 11 through. First place is first place. But they're scrambling for that, and it's like, wow. How?
I will say, like, Loner Life should be higher.
let me go on this other list.
Go ahead.
Because this other list is almost completely different.
All right.
So for number 1, they have Dan. 2 is ReZero. 3 is the final episode of Oshinoko. 4 is Bleach. 5 is Rana 1/2. 6 is My Hero episode 20. 7 is Blue Box. 8 is Uzumaki. 9 is From the Wrong Way to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon. And 10 is Blue Lock.
Well, that tells me then.
It's a little better.
So that either tells me with something with Dan. More people are watching it than actually watching it and actually rating it on the Reddit one than they are watching it and rating it on Crunchy on the Anime Corner one. That's kind of that's not surprising, but I'm confused because that tells me also like Blue Lock is in the top 10.
Garbage.
You have what else is on here? Bleach is at 4. That okay, so that number I can see where that's coming from. a little bit. Ramen is at 5, which that makes sense. My Hero's higher on this list than it is on the. Yeah, that doesn't. Okay,
My Hero
go
only
ahead.
lost out top 10 on the other list because of those two coming in, Blue
Yeah,
Locks and
yeah.
Bleach. But if you listen to the fact that Blue Lock is on this list at all is baffling me. If you listen to all the critics and all the internet memes and everything that you see out and about, you would think that Blue Lock was the worst anime in the world right now. Yet it's sitting at top spots on these lists. The animation is atrocious. It's basically GIFs with voices behind it, and yet it's at the top. Like, come on, man, what are we doing with these lists?
Wait. Did you say gifts? With that's an
Yeah,
that's
like
an that's an
literally,
indictment. An indictment for.
literally, it looks like a webtoon commercial.
Oh wow, that's bad.
It's trash.
But okay,
Absolutely trash. Uzumaki lost their budget in animators, and their episodes still look better than Blue Lock.
I am not gonna go down this road with you, but I want to. But I'm gonna say this. Even Mecha Udon, and the thing I'll say about that, so I watched the first episode because we watched that thing, but I rewatched it and we watched the second episode. Thinking back now, we watched it on a little tiny screen in the hall, but watching it on watching it on my monitor, the colors, the animation, and the way they do the fight scenes are some of the best animation I've seen outside of Dan, and I heard about Uzumaki. And yet, here's the thing: Mecha Udon was a passion project by the studio that did it themselves.
Yep.
So at this point, if you're looking at the Crunchyroll list, I would have put, and it's kind of weird. I will say this, but kind of weirdly, Northern Light should be higher. I think what the Grieving Soul retire should be higher. Uzumaki should probably in the top 10. Even to a point like the Yakuza Fiance is really interesting.
Man, Blue Exorcist is actually good. Like,
Correct.
there's so much that's
There's
actually
Tower of
good.
God. Tower of God at 30, which doesn't really.
Yes,
Which and I get Tower of God, it's a niche. There's not a lot of people that watch Tower of God,
Mhm.
but it is good. You should be watching it. But I don't know, man. I just feel like a lot of this stuff is overrated. And it's just up there so it
yeah.
can get publicized. I feel like there's somebody cooking these books.
I feel like we have people that are trying to push these shows for whatever reason they're trying to push them, even though they suck. Like they get on these sites and they spam them with all different types of comments, and you know,
Yeah,
So
because there's no reason, and I'm just going off of what I've seen.
Okay, I will give you this. Blue Lock got a lot of marketing. I remember Blue Lock's marketing. It got a lot of marketing across the
Blue
board.
Lock's marketing. Did you see their trailer?
Yeah, their trailer was insane. I was like,
It was
"Ooh, wow!"
literally a
Yeah.
gif of the main character with his hair blowing in the wind. A very, very, I'm not even gonna say who they are, but a very, very close person to me who loved the first season of Blue Lock. I mean, absolutely loved it. Would probably like buy everything Blue Lock they could. Came to me with almost tears in their eyes because of the way that Blue Lock looked. And the story was still mid A F. There's Blue Lock's original
By
story
the
was
way,
already kind of mid.
by the way, you're good, Deon, because Chris already cursed about 4 times, so we're good.
oh yeah, bro. I didn't start
You're
this
fine.
episode.
I was gonna mention that earlier. You're fine because I'll just make sure to mark it.
This episode won't get monetized. No.
Well,
No. But it was trash. And I'm not even gonna call a lot of them out because a lot of them they do have a little following now and whatever. But bro, what are we doing?
Even
Loner
and
life
it's
is in the 20s.
here's the thing, and I'll say this, and I'm gonna give you one. I'm continuing. 2.5 Seduction is a beautifully made cosplay anime about cosplay, and yet it should be probably in the top 7 at least, give or take. And but like at the same time, I Become a Villainous should be higher, should be in the top 10. There's there's things here that have better stories and animation across the board. And I know like Fairy Tale probably can't get higher because of what it is. One Piece is gonna sit where it's at because One Piece. It has a fan base for it. But
Yeah, Fairy
it's
Tale last season rode the top 10.
yeah. Yeah. So like
So
it's
what changed?
I don't know.
Is it not good
And
anymore? Because to
and
me, it's still good. So
that's the other thing. Like you have 7 deadly sins on this chart. 7 deadly sins is a pretty iconic thing. Like,
they trash now.
yeah, fair enough. But like
The
we're
new
getting
like it's not the originals, man. The originals was dope. Now it's like,
but like we're about to get Demon is it what's the one? Is it Demon Lord 2099, Chris?
yeah.
Say it
We're getting
again.
that. Demon Lord 2099 is coming in the next chart because the episode came out today.
Yes.
So like think about
Mm-hmm.
that gonna be in this chart. Like there's gonna be so much different. And I think the thing is
Dragon Ball
before
Z
Dragon Ball Z is gonna be in there.
Yeah.
or Dragon Ball
Daima,
Daima. Whatever. Yeah.
like it. There's so much here. I don't know what you can do now because if Bullock's not holding up, it shouldn't be in the top 10. But that's the fan base. If
From
Bullock, like
commonplace to
Bullock,
world strongest.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like I don't know. I think there's something going weird because I think if you're marketing something so hard, it kind of makes people want to watch it. And I'll even put it this way. I'm kind of surprised Gun Gal for Sword Art Online is so low.
It's just been
Gun Gal.
so long. So
Yeah.
long, man, since they put out something. And for them to come back with Gun Gale instead of coming back with SAO itself,
Yeah.
it was kind of like a shot to the heart. Like I'm a big SAO person, and I still haven't even like really watched it yet.
We'll
But
see.
I will say this: people who are interested in getting into One Piece, now is your time. We are going on a 6-month hiatus. This is your catch up month. Catch up now while you can, because when they come back out with this trash tier remake, you're gonna want to be like, oh, at least I watched the good one. So catch up now. You've got enough time now. And sorry, I just have to put
No.
it
Yeah, I do know they're going on a 6-month hiatus. That is true. That is out
Like
there.
honestly, they're pulling a bleach. Honestly, they're pulling a
Yeah,
bleach.
they're pulling a bleach. They're doing a bleach for the artist to come back for a bit.
Like they're
But also,
doing 6 months of an entirely different storyline that
great.
has nothing to do with the main show. They're pulling a bleach.
All right. So I'll say this much. This chart, like Chris said, will change a bunch. I hope that this chart really does change a lot because that tells me people are liking other things. No offense to Bullock, no offense to Bullock, no offense to Exit. I think you can just flip some things around. Flip things around to get some hype to them because they're worth it. And I know what we're gonna say. I championed the show last year. I thought should be the top 15, but ultimately I did that. I still said the show wasn't as good as half the stuff that was on the list. So don't get me off for it. But ultimately, I think it's gonna be one of those things where people are just gonna find what they like and stick to it. A lot of big stuff will do fine. A lot of small stuff will kind of get written over. That's gonna be kind of sad for the most part, but we'll see how that goes. But let's get into 2 episodes tonight. Let's get into Loner Life in Another World and Let This Grieving Soul Retire. We're gonna start off with Loner Life tonight because Loner Life kind of got interesting based on what I had saw and I did kind of watch it a little bit ahead. I did watch it ahead of time, it has a very interesting premise where they're headed. I'm gonna be interested how they're gonna handle this premise because it it kind of makes us feel like we're heading somewhere, but it's not a place where I think we've had in for a while. But I'll kind of explain that after we watch the episode. But in a second, I will say 3, 2, 1, and then we'll get going. Gentlemen, you ready?
Wait, what are we watching first?
Loner Life.
And that's on High Dive.
Mm-hmm. You,
Yes, sir.
you still have it on your phone, right?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I never did. That's the thing I never did to the app because the app wasn't going to be compatible to the phone.
Oh, are you
now.
still out?
Yeah, bro. I'm still at sea.
Oh, bro. You better man than me.
No,
We're not
I
gonna-
got a story to tell you. I got a story to tell you.
Uh-oh.
About some bitches I ran through. But I'm here. Lord forgive me for that remix.
hmm.
Ooh-wee. Hey, look, you're enjoying yourself then, I guess.
Well, let's just say I was messing around with one sister, and the younger sister got mad.
Hmm. Yeah,
Sisters.
I'm not gonna give any context to that at all. No
We'll
context
talk.
here.
We'll talk.
Yeah, no context here for that. I am gonna let that just slide as fast as possible.
We'll talk. Sisters, huh?
Just let me know when
No,
you're ready,
if you're
Chris.
listening right now, sister, don't be mad. There's plenty enough to go around. This episode is called Reunion.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. But there's a reason for that in this episode, at least.
Ooh-wee. That's fun.
Is everything working okay, Chris?
Nope.
Give me the name again. It's like I swear High Dive doesn't want to find it.
Loner
It's
life
Loner Life.
in another world.
You might have to look up.
Cause it should be. It's on the like top. It's on. I had to type it in. I think the first time I did it, and I just made sure I saved it.
Oh, you
All
right. It
right.
doesn't bring it up when you
Got
type
it.
it in.
All right. In 3, 2, 1, let's go. So this episode's called Reunion, episode 2. Oh, it picks up where we left off, pretty much. In that first. Oh yeah, they thought they heard him when they were trying to find him. Oh, this is the first time we've seen their opening. Well, that's a trip. That's a trippy opening. I will say the song is catchy though. Are you shocked?
Not at all.
they're delinquents. They're jock. They don't really care about much. Wait, do they bleep out Google search?
Yes, sir.
Why? That's
Ain't
random.
no telling.
That's a random thing to bleep out. It's funny, even though he has the not great skills, he's probably the best off, which is kind of funny. He knows how to handle himself. Oh, okay. I like the where that's going. Oh, they all walked off. Okay. charm and puppeteering. Great. Okay.
Curtains closed. Covers up. The fabric of sleeping. The fabric of our lives.
Camp's destroyed. They want to pop. Wait, what? So yeah, that's interesting. Wow, they just kind of turned them out as zombies. So that was Loner Life in Another World. I will say this. This is an interesting way they've done it. I don't think it's gonna be, I think it's gonna be good. I think it's interesting. I'll explain this in 3 parts very quickly because it's actually not that explained. Basically, it recaps us from the last episode where we saw um, he get kind of caught by the um, delinquents, almost get caught, but the rabbit comes out and distracts the delinquents. They run off. Delinquents and everybody else gets dropped into the world. They have all these good powers and everything. They try to build camp and everything, but we find that out from the nerds. The nerds came to him, ran to him. They have a conversation, ultimately telling them the story about what happened, and this kind of leads to them building the camp, the rest of the students getting their powers, the class rep trying to have everybody work together. The delinquents are having none of it. The gun gals, the gals having none of it as well. Ultimately, nerds do all the work. Nothing really works out because then the nerds get kicked out. Then from there, the other big thing from this is that the delinquents want revenge. They don't get that. They go to the camp, get that revenge, and if they're getting that revenge, the nerds fully get kicked out, and that's why they're helping our main character. But then ultimately, the main character doesn't feel alone anymore because he has somebody to talk to. He's respected the nerds. The nerds go out to fish at the back half of this episode. The gals see our main character walking through the forest up to beats of monsters. They're like, "We're sorry. We want to talk to the nerds. We want to figure out what's going. We apologize." But then they kind of become his servants, even though he didn't do anything to do that because the delinquents wanted to have charm and all that stuff on them to get that their way. Now it's a way to try to help the gals get back to camp, apologize to nerds to get all that stuff done. At the same time, the class rep has met our main character and saw what happened to him. And that's where the episode kind of ends. I'm going to go with Deon first for this. Deon, what's your main takeaway from this episode? If you had one. Because I think this episode's kind of weird. Or Chris, whatever you want to go first.
Like, first off, why these delinquents really just got to be a bunch of assholes? Like, honestly, bro, like somebody really needs to stop that around this time. And honestly, bro, I was kind of hoping the nerds would do it because they're the ones that kind of learn the world a lot faster than they do anyway. So low key, everybody should be at the mercy of the nerds anyway. So yeah, bro, like I really see some kind of vindictive vengeance coming up pretty soon.
Yeah, I also will say this. It's kind of odd because we're getting... Delinquents are mad because they were trying to make a plan. Now that plan's kind of gone to plan. Everybody figure it out. But also, that kind of does the thing where there's a little bit of iffiness with everybody else. And our main character doesn't really want to get involved because he knows if he gets caught the way things have happened, it kind of falls apart. I also feel like we're getting the start of a harem slowly because they teased it with the delinquents, but now our main character is going to have one, even though he doesn't want it. He's going to be that kind of guy.
Well, it's not that he didn't want it. He just didn't think he was going to get it with the stats that he had.
Correct. And those stats have now proven that the girls are kind of just at the mercy of him because he knows what he's doing and they do not. The gals don't. Yeah, I don't know. This episode was interesting. Deon, what was your overall take with this episode?
We're having some technical difficulties over there.
Okay. I will say too, I think for me, if we're starting to get the signs of a harem that with the main character, it's gonna be interesting how they handle it. It's gonna be handled better than 100 Girlfriends. They really, really love me, but it's also gonna be not as cringy as that either. What would you give this episode, Chris, for a rating?
But this episode really is going to get a 5.5 for me.
Oh, explain.
Because, I mean, you only showed us one aspect of what is going on. And yet we know it's somehow he ends up with all these girls around him. And yeah, we don't know if it's the girls, these gals. But it's like, I just feel like they're missing some pieces. Like, something's missing from it. Like maybe it's like you got all the pieces in the right places, but maybe it's a glue or something that's just not
Mm-hmm. I mean, they're trying to show us all the different groups. So the jocks, the delinquents, the gals, the class rep. So they're trying to put all those pieces together, but they have to kind of fit in a certain way to make sense. And that's the big thing about this. I think they're trying to keep those pieces separate to where they can still um, use them in certain ways to kind of make it make sense. At the same point, I think the other big thing for me is like our main character's kind of dull, kind of dull, not like crazily dull, but dull enough to where it's like, okay, something's off about him.
I mean, he is like a different type of nerd, but I mean, yeah.
Uh,
I really like him though.
you do?
Yeah,
Okay. I like him. It
I
just
really
feels like
like
he's.
him. He's
I
got.
like it. I like him, but he seems like he has everything, like mentally he's great, but the rest of it's kind of like he's just there for certain situations.
I mean, you get stuck. Look at a situation. You get stuck with all the crap tier stuff, and instead of crying and becoming the "oh, I'm not strong, it was me" person, he's making do with it.
Okay.
He's like surviving, bro. And then to not shun his classmates like I would have thought he would have done because
Absolutely.
he's
Same.
been a loner in the shed, and he still was like, all right, bro, y'all come hang out for a minute. You know what I'm saying? Like let's kick it. I got y'all. You know, and then still was like, no, y'all go on. I'ma still do me. Like he like granted it's only the second episode, so he's not gonna grow into this super strong, powerful,
Mhm.
like
OP character.
mage fighter person off rip.
Yeah.
But
No, he doesn't. What would you give the rating for this episode, Dion?
so far,
Yeah, so far. Okay. For me, I would have to give this like I would have to give this like a 7. Somewhere in there.
that was
You didn't hear your rating. What did you give it?
I think it's cutting in and out again. But he did explain it. He explained it well.
I would give it
All I heard is that you say you give it a yeah.
am I losing you?
It's cutting in and out.
Yeah, solid. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was just saying I can see why it's not in the top 10. I would give it a 7.5.
Okay.
Mainly because I still want to see more character growth than I'm getting. But it's still pretty good.
Okay.
Hi, baby.
Yes.
Hi.
I mean, I agree with you. 7. I think 7's about where I would be. 7.5. I don't think it's bad. I do think there just need to be more, like you said, more character growth, kind of building out the factions a little bit more across the board. Because we got a lot about the delinquents in this episode. But outside of that, and the nerds, everybody else is kind of just there. I think we get more of the
we got
gal.
more about side characters than we got about our main character this episode, which is
Correct.
cool because it's world building. But yeah,
Well, let's get into our other episode for the night, which is Let the Grieving Soul Retire. That's going to be episode 2, so get that up for me. It's one of these things with shows like this, because both of these are supposed to be technically comedy. I think the comedy for Loner Life is going to be the hilarious stuff he gets up with the gals and everybody else. For Let This Grieving Soul Retire, I think the comedy is going to be more or less about him trying to navigate, trying to get out of this guild. I do think it's interesting. I don't know how much of that's going to change over time with these episodes, but I think they'll change a lot.
yeah,
But
we
in a
got a lot
second,
of comedy from the first episode from the main character.
yes, we
in
did.
This season,
Yes, we
this
did.
show particularly.
But I think that for Lower Life, for Let This Grieving Soul Retire, I think you're going to stay with the comedy with him for the main character, but everybody else will kind of balance out. At the also
kind of that he's the only one not serious in the whole show.
Yep, correct. He's not the only. He's the only one not serious. He's the only one that doesn't. He doesn't really care. He's just kind of like, I want to get out of this. I'm done with this, but he can't really say anything about it. But we'll see how this episode goes. This episode's gonna be interesting. They're gonna kind of build off what we saw last week. But in a second, we'll say 3, 2, 1, and then we'll get going. You ready?
Yes, sir.
All right. In 3, 2, 1, let's go.
See, there's some of that.
Comedy. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he makes the party name. Okay.
Like, I don't know how you thought this was gonna be a bad thing.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't like your name was like the Killing Puppies or something.
Well, I think what he thought it was gonna be, it's gonna be Grim. It was, the party name's Grim. The party name is very not exciting. So he would have thought, oh, people would have just left.
Maybe
But in
I'm,
this
I'm just
case,
a Dark Soul person because I thought that thing was fire.
I thought it was cool. I didn't think it was bad. Grieving Souls. That's kind of a cool. That was something like that's something like from a Dark Souls thing. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
I mean, he made the cool masks. They all wear them together. Like, yeah,
Who do?
nothing about this sounds.
Nobody.
Nothing
Oh,
about
maybe
this
they was knocking before I came downstairs.
sounds bad.
Maybe it was your daughter. Or and Zara in the living room, so she could have let her come down here. I just went upstairs to get my laptop. Hey, can I ask you a question?
Mhm.
May I ask you 2 more questions? What? Think I can eat your pussy later? No. Yeah.
Oh, they did that skip
Can
to
I
the
eat
opening
too?
thing.
I'm still on the podcast. Yeah. But you can watch. You gotta watch it because you didn't finish the episode. Last episode we was watching. You didn't finish the last episode. No, you didn't. I did by myself, waiting for you to come back. Right.
Oh, they're recapping everything. Then when they go to the, okay, I get it now.
Thousand tricks.
Yeah. So he's like 1,000 things he can do.
Thousand tricks. Everything seems like, and when you already know like what he does, like using all the relics and stuff, it like makes sense.
Yep, it does. Very much so.
You're wasting 90% of your life because you can't recognize his strength.
That's funny and bad at the same time.
Yeah, own country. No one's so tall.
Why are the two guys why are the red haired dude and the brown haired dude butting heads so much? I don't get
Because
that.
the red haired dude is a hothead and the brown haired dude is like, bro, chill out for he smite your dumb.
Well, yeah. I mean, you did try to fight the girl, and then she just kicked you. She just kicked you so bad, like it was not even worth that.
Yeah, he felt slighted. There you go. How you go challenge him? You can't even beat the.
Nope. I am definitely not challenging.
And this was hilarious.
Yep. She's stretching for a fight she knows she's gonna win. So why is she stretching?
She's showing off. for him.
Like, probably like she's like literally just stretching. I'm like, okay, you know he's not good.
She's showing off. Yo, if somebody drop their weapons to fight you,
Yeah, then you're really in trouble. You're really in trouble. You're like, oh, I am not any good. I'm not good here.
here's the indirect comedy. Is he stupid?
Oh yeah, we saw this last week, so we saw this part. I remember this now. They're recapping it a little bit, because the middle thing was new before the intro. The first part was new before the intro. She's so into him.
I love her though, because she's like that little child,
Yeah,
like cutesy, but she is fierce, man. Look at that. What?
I love you. Dodged that, and she just kicked you back in the face. It's like,
See, cutesy. And then
nope. She better. Yeah, this was what I saw. Oh my, that. She has her leg wrapped around your neck and your arm and an arm bar in the air like that. You're gonna die. You're not gonna live.
while telling you to worship her master as a god. This is
Oh, jeez.
the word masochist comes to mind.
And then she just goes, "I'm gonna slap you in the back of the neck. You fall." Because she's trained that way.
And then after all of that, he does something that humbles this man. It's amazing. And this show's in the 20s, man. Get out of here.
Yeah, this show's nothing. This show doesn't be in the 20s. Yep.
Humble.
Yep. Very much so. He got humbled quick.
Like that was just a slice. But here's the rest of the pie. Just eat this whole humble pie as I manhandle your very powerful sword.
To the point where you can make it elementally burn like fire.
Didn't even touch it. He tapped it with his foot and was able to control the fire.
And that's where they headed. He's basically just saying, can I use the sword any other way outside of the ways I've used it?
Yeah, he's a nerd for relics. I
Yep.
love it.
That is a good thing about the show. Like the relic part of it is actually really interesting because he loves it so much. It's like, okay, we're gonna learn more about that.
Yeah, you give him something to actually have a passion about versus just
Yep.
trying to retire. Like you actually value things in this world. The doubt
Yep.
that's going across his face right now.
Yep. Because he's like, did I just send him to the most dangerous thing possible?
Hmm.
You sent the level 4 to a place where a level 5 party went missing. Not a great idea.
The things he thought was making it better actually made it worse.
Correct.
He burned out all his flames.
Yep. That's why I wrote a whale. What? You're barely old enough to have a whale, I assume?
She thinks she going to die, bro. She know how dangerous it is. He just didn't.
It's funny you asked her to do it in the first episode. She's like, and he basically forced her to do it, and yet she already knew the plan. She already knew what to do.
Goes to show why she didn't want to do it in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Yep, you're talking about 1,000 tricks, and we're the pub incident. Yep. Yep.
They're so serious, and he's just a screw up left and right.
Yep. But she still likes him, and everybody else respects him because they know how.
But nobody knows that he's a screw up. They
Nope.
think he's calculating and doing everything with purpose.
A phantom. I'll be running right now if anybody else. She knows. She knows very well what's going on.
He just dropped his bags of tricks.
Human missile incident. No breaks. So that was episode 2. I will say this. Did you watch the first episode, Deon?
Yes, sir.
There's a lot from the first episode recapped here. I also feel like there was nothing really new except for a lot of the like her riding the wheel, the full fight with the red-haired dude. that whole situation. I explained what happened with that. This show is a slow build. Um, I'm wondering if it's too slow, but that just might be me. What do you think about that?
Well, you said there's nothing new.
There's a couple things new with episode 2, but it feels like it's recapping stuff we saw from episode 1.
Really?
A few things, not everything. Oh no, wait, no, it is new. I've watched it already. That's why I forgot I watched.
Okay,
This
I'm like, wait,
I
what?
watched it. That's why I forgot. I watched this already, so I know this episode because I watched this one. I didn't watch.
Okay.
I didn't watch Souls. Yes, there's a lot new, but I have to
I'm
say
like, it picked up
it's
right where the other one left
it
off.
picked up where
It
level
didn't
left
even
off, but
recap
I
it.
forget the thing. I forget this one bounces around a lot. This one bounces around and kind of gives you bits and pieces of things, which feels kind of disjointed.
What do you mean bounces around?
So like we get the whole fight with her and the redhead dude. We see the whole fight happen. Him picking up, touching the sword, but then we cut to her doing the wheel stuff. Him figuring out what's going on with the actual dungeon, and like, wait, this dungeon's actually really terrible. Wait, they could actually get hurt. Wait, I messed up, and then him trying to find a way to get out of it. I like the bouncing around, but I don't like it because sometimes you
I
can
felt
miss.
like it went smooth.
Did it go smooth? It went pretty
feel
smooth,
like
but it just
he's talking about how smooth. Like we go to him talking to his assistant. They're talking about how smooth it should be. Everybody's thinking it's calculated. He's like, they'll be fine. Oh, I need to go get my thing charged, which is a pre-cap to the sword thing. So then they go and then they tell him, hey, this is actually really dangerous. You're wild, man. And then he goes, dang, is it? And then you go to the wheel thing, and it's like, oh, it must be really dangerous. They know it's dangerous because
if
they're
she's
riding
riding
the
a wheel.
wheels.
Yeah.
And then it goes to the sword thing, which is like, oh, yeah, you do need to charge your relics in this world. And he didn't,
Yep.
so he sent them out there on a dangerous mission, unprepared. What are you gonna do about it? Then it's like, oh, I gotta go.
Yep. I do apologize. I forgot I did watch this already. I actually do. I agree with you. I like it, but I think the thing is, it does leave off where the first episode It goes from where the first episode left off, but it has that weird kind of thing of like the pace. The pacing is kind of fast, but it still works because we're getting everything involved. I will say this: the best characters out of this is her, the girl,
Tiny or whatever. Yeah.
Tano, and our main character, and redhead dude.
All right.
That's pretty much it. The other girl, we haven't heard much about. His assistant's interesting because she kind of was just there. But yeah,
Yeah,
I don't
she's
know.
giving me I forget her name, but the elf in Osan Adventure.
Oh yeah, yep.
She's giving me
Yeah,
her vibes where it's like
yep.
she gotta be strong, but she's waiting on
Yeah.
him. Like she's giving me her vibes.
Do you think? Uh, do you think this episode? Do you think this is in a better spot than Loner Life?
Oh yeah. I
Okay.
definitely think this
Okay.
show is doing better at it just feels more entertaining than Loner Life.
Correct. That's what I figured the same. It feels more entertaining than Loner Life.
Yeah.
I also say I think the other thing about it, I think Dory is interesting because he's so interested. Like you said, he's interested in relics that shows out.
And I like the way they did his character.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's not a snobbling, like groveling little baby fool. Like he's a cool character.
Mm-hmm.
Like he dresses cool, his attitude is cool headed. Like he's a cool character that has this background of wanting to be this like just leave me alone type of character. He's not necessarily a weak, oh my god, I'm so weak, I
Nope.
need to be strong character, but he is that character, but he doesn't cry like the last
Nope.
few we've seen.
Yeah, he's
And we've
very
seen characters that were super strong but thought they were weak and they were still like snobbling like that. So
yeah. He's very level-headed. He's very strong, but something you mentioned, he kind of thinks about it. He kind of doesn't have a good job of like understanding. He feels like he doesn't understand certain situations. So when he sends somebody on a mission like he did in this episode, it feels like, oh wait, he didn't think through the process.
yeah. I feel like his weakness is what makes the show, which is
Yep.
he's lazy. He's extremely lazy, and that's what makes the show what it
Yep.
is. Because when he
Absolutely.
looked at the paper, he's like, "Oh snap, level 5." Like he understood it in that moment, but
But he forgot.
before
He forgot to.
he just didn't read it.
Nope. He forgot about it. About it.
So he's just trying to hurry up and get through it.
What what would you give episode 2 of Let This Grieving Soul Retire for a rating?
Oh, I'm gonna give it an 8.5.
Ooh. Explain.
I'm gonna give it an 8.5. Well, I feel like, and I've seen this one before already too, and I still kind of enjoyed it while I was watching it. And for
Mhm.
me, that speaks volumes because once I've seen something, it's like, all right, I'm done. I didn't see it already. Everything is
Yeah.
just kind of blah. But I was still like catching stuff, and I was like, oh dang, it is on there. Oh snap, he did make sure he got recharged and connecting dots still, and like that's
Yep.
interesting for me.
Yep.
It gives me something to want. Like I want to see. They already have episode 3, so when we get done with this, I'm going to watch episode 3. Like, and that
100%.
speaks volumes for me.
Yes. That's why I remember, because I didn't do that for Learn Life, but I did it for this. I watched episode 2 after episode 2 came out. I'm probably doing it for
Yeah,
episode 3 tomorrow, just to have ready to pre-go, because we can talk about it more. I have to agree with you. 8.5. 8.5. I think characters work, story works, it builds off things. I think the only thing I really want is the rest of the party, the people in the party, to get more character development.
more
Redhead
character
guy,
development. Yeah,
the brown haired dude, the girl. Those get character
yeah.
development, we'll be fine.
And the
Yeah.
assistant. I want to know more about the assistant.
Same. The assistant's the other big one. The assistant has nothing there. She's just kind of there right now. But hey, everything else is doing well. Yeah, between the two, I think this will be the bigger one for us as a group to watch. I think this one's more interesting. Lorne Life is going to get interesting, but it's going to take a bit because of where Lorne Life's headed.
Yeah, it's a little slower.
Yeah, it's slower. It's trying to build up all the other characters. It has a lot of side characters to build up. Here, it doesn't have that many side characters to build up.
I think the difference is in Loner Life, they're letting the world build, but
Yeah,
in this one, he's just telling you outright.
what the world is
The
about.
world building stuff, they just like cut to like a little narrative of it. Oh, this is what dungeons are about. This is what this group is
Yeah,
about. And I like that for this story. It keeps
basically,
the pacing quick.
basically another version of Dungeon People. If Dungeon People was not set in the dungeon, it's a person that's been through dungeons and been through that stuff. Here you go.
Yep.
But that is episode 77 of the Anime Dojo. We'll be back next week for episode 78 with episode 3 of Loner Life and episode Loner Life in Another World and episode 3 of Let This Grieving Soul Retire. I think these two shows are going to do well. I think we're going to get more into one than the other, but that's not surprising. I do thank Chris and Deon for joining me. Chris had to leave us a little bit early. Deon closed it with me again. That's actually kind of a good thing. That's never happened that often, but I do thank that for happening. But this will go up on YouTube on Thursday, and then we're kind of getting the podcast stuff and everything figured out. Once we get that kind of figured out, we'll have all that set up with the new logo and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of cool things coming for that. Look forward to it. But if you're watching, hope you enjoy. Time. See you.
Peace. Hi, baby.